On behalf of the Board of Education, welcome to the 2021 Fairview Park City Schools State of the Schools presentation. I would like to take a minute to introduce the Board of Education. Mrs. Erin Hinkle, Mrs. Jennifer Bolander, Mr. Donald Batalla, Mr. Matt Ruby, and I'm Jocelyn Dalton. It's been a unique and challenging year in many ways, and we are very grateful for the dedicated staff, students, and community who have been flexible and patient as we navigated these uncharted waters this past year. Over the next several minutes, you will hear about the past year and how we continued to deliver exceptional academic programs and services that challenged the mind, instilled the joy of learning, and promoted responsible citizenship. Superintendent Dr. Bill Wagner is up next to talk about school during a pandemic.
The COVID-19 pandemic closed schools across the state of Ohio in March of 2020. This past year has most certainly been challenging and unique for everyone, but I'm tremendously proud of how our schools, families, and community of Fairview Park bonded together and made it through some of the most difficult times any of us have ever experienced. I believe that one of the many things that have helped us be successful throughout this pandemic is that we have an outstanding strategic plan, and we endeavor to live it and work it every day. We have a vision statement that has shaped the culture of this district and a mission that has guided our work for many years. Included in this plan are 4 goals that truly prepared us for the challenges of this pandemic, and those goals align exceptionally well with those of the Ohio Department of Education. By the way, we developed ours first. And our student skills profile, also shown here, which outline the 9 key skills our students sharpen and master from preschool through graduation. As the pandemic hit, we were fortunate in many ways here in Fairview Park City Schools. One of the key factors was that we have been a one-to-one district for many years. In other words, every one of our students had already been issued a personal laptop or tablet computer for educational use. In addition, we've been using electronic learning management systems like Seesaw, the Summit Learning platform, and Google Classroom for many years as well. And our students, parents, and staff were all pretty comfortable with these tools. However, we never would have expected to need and use them as we have this past year. These key advantages allowed our students and teachers to transition to remote learning pretty easily as compared to other schools and districts around the world. In other districts, students went months at the start of the pandemic without any resources, materials, or instruction as schools and districts scrambled to acquire and deploy equipment and tools. Not here. The shift to remote learning in March of 2020 was certainly abrupt for us, but we were able to maintain teaching and learning without any interruption. We were living the phrase in our vision statement, learn differently, in a big way. We were even blessed in such a way that nearly all of our families had internet access at home. And for those who didn't, we were able to partner with Cox Communications to get them access very quickly. Our teachers learned a ton of new tricks and tools in the blink of an eye to keep the online learning engaging for students and moving forward. We kept things light and fun during this crazy time of uncertainty with Spirit Weeks and encouraging students and families to share their artwork, photos of their pets, and what they were reading. We all were learning differently throughout the past year, and it will forever change how teaching and learning occurs for our students here in Fairview Park. Now, I know being a parent during the past 13 months has been unbelievably difficult. Becoming a home-based code teacher was certainly never the plan for any of us, and I pray none of us ever have to do it again. Parents, you were warriors in every sense of the word. I cannot express how grateful we are for your Herculean efforts, your eternal patience and understanding, and your we're all in this together attitude in partnership with us to keep the learning going for our students. The pandemic made us all a little rough around the edges. Okay, I admit, sometimes feeling burnt to a crisp. But it also brought out the best in people. The words "care deeply" from our district vision statement became our mantra this past year. We knew our kids, our families, and residents throughout this entire community would be hard hit in so many ways through this pandemic. So we set out with fierce determination to help anyone and everyone we could. Every member of the Fairview schools pivoted, twisted, and bent over backwards to help in any way needed. Job descriptions and many rules went out the window. Our food service team made sure anyone who needed food got it. Our bus drivers and support staff helped deliver the food all throughout the city. Our teachers and administrators delivered school supplies, made home visits, provided care packages, put up "We miss our student" yard signs, provided technology support and replacements as needed, and conducted critical wellness checks. Our secretaries and office staff kept our offices open and running when everything else was shut down. Meanwhile, our custodians, maintenance personnel, and cleaners went into overdrive to make our buildings hospital level clean and sterilized. For 2 years, or 2 years ago, we created a new position with the Wellness and Success Funds provided to schools through the governor's last biennial budget. We hired a Family and Community Engagement, or FACE, coordinator. Carrie Sullivan dove into the position from day one, and she and her skeleton care crew, which was basically anyone she could recruit at the moment, have been all over this town helping families with nearly every need imaginable. At the very beginning of the pandemic, we coordinated collections and donations of hand sanitizer, medical gloves, eye protection, antibacterial wipes, cleaning supplies, tissues, and many other items for our first responders at local hospitals and our Fairview Park Fire and Police departments. At the start of the pandemic, I contacted leaders from our local churches, the library, Fairview Hospital, Mayor Cooney and his administration, the Cleveland Hope Exchange, and key school district personnel, and we formed the Fairview Park Community Care Team. We immediately began working together to provide joint support and assistance to anyone in our community who needed it. The hardest part for me throughout the past year, and I'm willing to wager most of you as well, was dealing with the many unknown variables and the constant ambiguity. This sure made our vision of aspiring to excellence feel like throwing darts in the dark. The news on TV, radio, the internet, and social media provided often conflicting and sometimes blatantly inaccurate information, and the research and data was limited, slow in developing, and usually incomplete. So early on, we started providing weekly district updates for families, which sometimes turned into 2 to 3 times a week due to how fast things were changing, to share the best information we could get to keep everyone informed. Then, last spring and early summer, we pulled together the Reimagine School Task Force to help us sift through the chaos and develop a creative and inspired initial re-entry plan to start the 2020-2021 school year. That work with the task force feels like it was a lifetime ago, and so much has changed since then. But that group paved the way for us to be Fairview Strong from the start of this school year, and I cannot be more thankful for their vision, commitment, and support. Armed with the Reimagine Schools plan, we had a solid base for the beginning of this school year. Each week, we reviewed the guidance coming from the CDC, Governor DeWine, the Ohio Department of Health, and the Cuyahoga County Board of Health, and we moved forward cautiously and carefully, knowing the safety of our students, families, and staff had to be our top priority. But like I mentioned earlier, the information was limited. From their first reporting of the Cuyahoga County Board of Health and Ohio Department of Health data, I was tracking the weekly infection rates and indicators locally, regionally, and at the state level. And this tracking will continue as long as necessary to assure we are able to see any new developing trends or patterns to inform our efforts. It was based on that data that we decided to start the school year as we ended the prior year in what we called full remote learning. However, we had teachers on site in the buildings so we could all work together on making this school year not just about surviving, but more about thriving. It was a strange start for everyone, but we had the summer to retool and plan, and our teachers hit the ground running with new energy, ideas, and available resources. We put in place the Fairview remote learning option for parents who preferred to keep their children learning from home, even when we started bringing kids back into the buildings. We proceeded through the fall and into the winter, tightly monitoring the pandemic data, available research, guidance from the CDC, and our state and county boards of health, and trends around the region, state, and nation. Now, I was dead set against it, but the parents and student athletes desperately wanted a chance to attempt a fall athletics season. Our athletics director, Joe Dianetti, spent countless hours reviewing OHSAA and ODH guidelines and working with coaches, parents, and athletes on the huge number of requirements and restrictions that had to be put in place. I cannot be more proud of their work and commitment to safety, as they proved me wrong and were able to complete the fall season with very few issues. And as if the pandemic didn't provide enough challenge, the district had been planning and communicating the need for a new operating levy on the November general election ballot. If you've seen the State of the Community presentations for the past 4 years, you should remember me being very clear about this. We stretched the prior levy as far as we could, and even a bit more beyond that, and had to ask voters for their support. The Friends of the Fairview Park City Schools Levy Committee started their planning in January of 2020 and kept working every single month straight through the pandemic via Zoom meetings. We would like to extend a very special thanks to them and to all of you for supporting issue 72 last November. The levels of social and political unrest in our country sparked the forming of a district task force on diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice. We partnered with the Diversity Center of Northeast Ohio to lead the group in the development of an action plan that can be aligned with and incorporated into our strategic plan. The task force creates a space to listen and learn from each other's lived experiences, have open dialogue focused on identifying past successes, areas of growth, and a shared vision for the future, and creates the opportunity to come together as a community to set collective goals, to engage in solutions-oriented action planning, and enact positive change in our school and community. This planning actually started last summer. A call for volunteers was held this past fall. The task force started meeting in January of 2021, and the work in partnership with the Diversity Center will continue into next year and hopefully will be ongoing. Even though the trends in the winter spike appeared that cases of COVID-19 were on the decline as we returned from winter break, the infection rates were still many times what they were when the governor had closed schools last spring, as you can see in this slide. However, we had learned a lot since then. We were far better prepared and equipped. We had successfully brought students back in a hybrid mode in the fall for 7 weeks, where half the students attended school in person on alternating days. And we knew our students and parents were fading fast. So we returned from winter break in our hybrid mode again in early January. Winter athletics posed increased challenges with events being held indoors, starting right at the beginning of a dramatic surge in COVID-19 cases. And yet, our athletic director, coaches, families, and athletes all made it work. Again, there were extreme changes to the typical business as usual, but their efforts allowed our athletes to compete and complete their seasons. A critical turning point in our fight against COVID was the ability to vaccinate our staff, but we knew we couldn't wait for that to happen completely. Our staff received their first Pfizer vaccination on February 22nd, and we brought students back all in on March 1st. Our staff received their second vaccination on March 15th. We are eternally grateful to Giant Eagle Pharmacy and the Educational Service Center of Northeast Ohio for coordinating the vaccinations for the Fairview Park City Schools and all schools throughout Cuyahoga County. We're working with them right now, as a matter of fact, to coordinate the availability of vaccinations for our students who are 16 and older, so they and their family members can also get vaccinated prior to the end of the school year. So at this time, I'd like to turn the presentation over to our Director of Operations, Mr. Michael Matthews, to quickly share some long-term benefits for our schools from this pandemic and share information with you regarding the successful completion of our facilities master plan renovations and construction project. Mike?
Thank you. This school year saw our facilities master plan wrapping up while a whole new wave of challenges came to our facilities with that COVID pandemic. Over the past year, we've implemented several new health and safety measures in response to COVID-19, including mandatory face masks for all students and staff, social distancing of students in instructional spaces, personal dividers, as well as hand sanitizers in every room and common areas throughout the buildings. Additionally, we've enhanced cleaning and sanitation throughout the school day, as well as the evening. Sanitizing spray is available and in use through the day in every instructional space, cafeteria, and playgrounds. Each evening, all spaces are cleaned under normal protocols, as well as a final disinfectant spray to ensure all spaces are ready to accept students and staff safely each day. This is accomplished through a variety of EPA-approved products and the use of electrostatic sprayers. These combined efforts have helped keep the rate of transmission of not only COVID-19, but also other common illnesses to a minimum throughout this past year. While we may see some of these procedures modify as the pandemic continues to move forward, we will continue others as they are now new best practices for the well-being of our school community. 2020 saw the quiet completion of our facilities master plan with renovations and additions to all 3 campuses in the Fairview Park schools while students were in full remote learning. The timing of the completion of the project was a key part in helping the district to be able to safely reopen schools throughout this school year. All buildings now have fully conditioned spaces for all seasons, making it a huge improvement in the comfort level of the learning community. Additionally, the major upgrades to the HVAC systems have dramatically improved the overall air quality in the buildings by allowing the conditioned air to be run through multiple stages of MERV 13 filtration. A single MERV 13 filter is capable of filtering 85% of airborne particles, including those associated with COVID-19, influenza, and more. On average, conditioned air in our buildings will go through 3 to 4 layers of filtering before ever returning back to the classroom. This will become a new standard for operation of school districts, which we can gladly say we are ahead of the curve on. In addition to the major mechanical work behind the scenes completed in the facilities master plan, there were extensive renovations to the cosmetics and functional spaces of both the Early Education Center and the Fairview High and Middle School campus. The Early Education Center received a whole new facelift to all corridors and classrooms with paint and LED lighting, as well as an expansion of the daycare classrooms and playground to accommodate more students down to ages 18 months of age. The high school and middle school campus received similar facelifts to the corridors and classrooms, while also adding on brand new spaces, including a new middle school entrance and orchestra room, as well as the heart of our construction project, the Campus Innovation Center. In addition, students are now enjoying a brand new cafeteria, kitchen, and 2 new courtyards. Take a moment over the next slides to take a glimpse at some of the before and after pictures to get an idea of the amazing spaces our students have come to love.
Thanks, Mike. We have a new face in our treasurer position. Kim Sperling served as our treasurer for the past 3 years and left for a new opportunity in December. Kim stayed on to help out until the position was filled. In January, we started a search process using the help of Finding Leaders, And I would like to thank the district's Finance and Treasurer Office staff, Mary Ann, Teresa, and Balbina, for taking part in the interview process and for holding down the fort during the transition. At the conclusion of our search, a contract for Mr. Rob Showalter was approved and he officially started on April 1st. Mr. Showalter comes to us with over 8 years of experience in school finances. And while he has been here for less than a month, he's already made a positive impact. Welcome again to Mr. Rob Showalter, and he will now speak to us on the district finances.
Thank you, Jocelyn, for that introduction. And as she said, my name is Rob Showalter, and I am the new treasurer for the district. And thank you for joining us today. A little bit about myself. Before joining the team on April 1st, I was the treasurer for Midview Local School District in Lorain County. Before that, I was the assistant treasurer for Strongsville Schools and an internal auditor for Cleveland Schools. I'm certified in the following areas: school finance and operations, internal auditing, fraud examination, and government auditing. Between myself and my staff here at Fairview Park Schools, we have over 57 years of experience related to school finance, so you can rest easy knowing that your money is in experienced hands. In addition to handling the district payroll, accounts payable, and other district aspects of finance, one of the biggest projects that I am tasked with each year is creating a 5-year financial forecast. Some of you may never have heard of a 5-year forecast, and that's okay. It's exactly what you think it is. It's a 3-year look back at our actual revenues and expenses and a 5-year look ahead, the forecast or the estimates. It has 2 parts: the numbers and the assumptions, which is the story behind the numbers. It only covers the general fund, which is our largest fund that handles our day-to-day operations. It's a snapshot in time of the big picture of what we currently know and what we think will happen. And it's a living document. Now, one thing I must admit, though, it will be wrong. I want it to be as accurate as possible, but I must admit, and the community can accept, that these numbers are just educated guesses. Things change. Think of it like a weather forecast. We'll have a better idea of what today's weather will be the closer that we move to today. As we start to look out into the future, more variables could take place, and we will start to miss the mark a little bit, and that's all right. It's updated every 6 months in November and May, and it's presented to the Board of Education for approval before being submitted to the Ohio Department of Education. It'll focus on the present. We're currently in fiscal year FY21 with an eye on the future, fiscal years 22 through 25. This slide is a pie chart of where our district's money comes from. As you can see, most of our general fund revenues are from property taxes. In fact, the district's property tax revenue will be higher in fiscal year 21 when compared to fiscal year 20, in large part to the passage of that 7.9 mil levy in November of 2020. Thank you very much, Fairview Park voters. My commitment to you, no matter which way you voted on this levy, is to spend, record, and report your investment diligently, transparently, and accurately. One of the hottest topics in regards to school finance right now is obviously related to coronavirus. The district has received some government funding to help offset the costs associated with reopening schools, as you can see in the table on the slide. Between 2 rounds of federal funding, known as ESSER, or the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Grant, a coronavirus relief fund, and a replenishment of our originally cut state funding, the district has received $1.35 million of government assistance to date. We are past the 1-year mark on the quarantine and the outbreak, and yet the school district still cannot predict the full effect of the spread of COVID-19 that'll have on the finances or our operations. Much like the pie chart that I use to explain how we receive our money in the district in the general fund, this chart explains how we spend our money. When you start to think of a school district as a business, you start to wrap your head around what our main costs would be. We don't manufacture or sell anything. We are a service organization. So naturally, our biggest expenses will be salaries and benefits for our employees. This final 1-page chart summarizes our most recent 5-year forecast, which is from November of 2020. Now, a few slides ago, I mentioned that the forecast is updated every November and May. So we are looking at a pretty outdated forecast, considering that we are speaking to you at the end of April, and it'll be updated in mid-May. But this will give you a pretty good idea of how the district is looking financially. The yellow column in the center is the fiscal year that we are in right now, which ends on June 30th, 2021. So looking ahead to the next fiscal year, we are anticipating bringing in more dollars in revenue than we are anticipated in spending, which is always a good thing. As you start to move away from the present day into the out years of the forecast, you have to keep in mind that I need to stay conservative in our revenue and expenditure estimates. I need to be realistic with the numbers, but I also need to build in that little bit of conservatism just in case things don't go our way. Like I said, these numbers will continue to change as we get closer to each fiscal year in real life. I hope this quick glance at the district finances gives you a better idea of where we stand as a district and provides you with a level of transparency that makes you comfortable with the district that you call home.
Thanks, Rob. You've heard a lot about what this past year from the district perspective really looks like, but the real action happens at the building and the classroom level. So I've asked our building leaders to share some insights with you from the past year. So first, we have our Director of Early Education, Ms. Trish Moran, who leads the efforts at our Parkview Early Education Center. Trish and the EEC staff led the way for all of us in safety protocols and procedures throughout this pandemic. Here's Ms. Moran to tell you more about the activities of the past year.
Thanks, Bill. This year has been so different for the EEC. As a matter of fact, the last 2 years have been really different. We spent from June 2019 until December of 2019 at a building in North Olmsted while our building was being renovated. We were so excited to return to our newly renovated building and get back to normal. However, that was not going to happen. We spent about 10 weeks in our new building before the shutdown. During the shutdown, the preschool staff still tried to support their students with short lessons that they sent to parents. They included stories, art projects, and videos to try to stay connected during this difficult time. We were so happy to be able to return and reopen on June 15th and have a modified summer program. As soon as Governor DeWine and the Ohio Department of Education gave us the green light to reopen, we started making plans for a safe re-entry to the EEC for any of our children and families that needed summer care. Things looked a little different, but we were able to implement safety precautions to minimize the risks for our staff and children. We also received a grant from ODJFS and the Ohio Department of Education to help purchase things like an outdoor hand washing station, cleaning supplies, hand sanitizer, and individual school supplies. We were looking forward to having our kindergarten classrooms return to the building for fall. Teachers were anxious to move back into their rooms and hoping that school would begin with students face-to-face. Unfortunately, that did not happen right away. Our kindergarten students did return to half-day programming 5 days a week in October. Since we offer full-day kindergarten, this would be our kindergarten team's idea for hybrid. All of our kindergarten students were offered the opportunity to be in school every day for half a day. We brought in half the class in the morning and the other half in the afternoon. This allowed us to have less children in the room at one time, and more importantly, really helped our teachers provide the necessary instruction for reading and math in person. We would like to thank Dr. Wagner, the Board of Education, and all of our families for their continued support. We appreciate your patience with the morning car lines and added safety precautions. We're hoping to invite families back into the building in the fall. The EEC is almost back to normal with a wait list for many of our programs for the fall. Our daycare programs will be back at normal ratios, and we anticipate having all of the rooms full 5 days a week. We're looking forward to having a large kindergarten group. If your child will be 5 by August 1st, 2021, they qualify to register for kindergarten for the 2021-22 school year. Please register by May 1st so you will receive an invitation to our Blast Off to Kindergarten program on May 13th. It is an event that will be held mostly outside. We will have a bus and building tours. We will also have representatives from the PTA, the Recreational Center, kindergarten teachers, and others to answer any questions you may have before entering kindergarten. We will also have some special swag for our newest scholars. We're looking forward to the summer, but the EEC never closes. We will have our regular summer programs and host the ESY students and teachers at our building again this year. We are hoping to also host a special summer program called Dream, Design, Build. This program will be a summer camp experience for students currently in grades K through 4. The students will participate in activities to help build an outdoor classroom. This will be a very exciting time for our students. They will be able to help build an outdoor classroom that will benefit the entire district. Teachers have been brainstorming ideas and looking for field trips that will support this summer learning experience. Since it is still under construction, please stay tuned for registration information and ways community members can get involved in the very near future. We are hoping the 2021 school year is a little more normal and all of our programs will continue to rebuild. We are looking forward to having our Step Up to Quality on-site visit and maintaining our 5-star rating. If you have questions regarding kindergarten, preschool, or daycare, please don't hesitate to call the building. We are always happy to help support our Fairview community. Thank you.
Thanks, Trish. Shifting to Gillisweet Elementary School, Mr. Matt Krivak stepped up to become principal of Gillisweet when longtime principal Barb Brady retired last year. Now, it's hard enough moving into the principalship, but doing it during a pandemic made things a lot more challenging, I'm sure. However, as you'll see, Mr. Krivak and the Gillisweet team made some real magic happen this year. So Mr. Krivak, off to you.
As Gillisweet began to prepare for the school year, we recognized the importance and challenge to fostering and promoting a remote personalized learning experience that would be joyful and engaging for students and families. To begin the process to challenge, prepare, and empower each of our students, we developed a framework that recognized the importance of rigorous and innovative learning experiences, a flexible balance of technology and in-person connections, and commitment to cultivate positive and caring relationships to foster students' growth and build a strong classroom and school community. Recognizing that several students and families were not ready for in-person learning, Gillisweet established remote learning classrooms where the students in classrooms would remain fully remote throughout the first 3 quarters of the school year. Their daily routine contained 5 days a week of synchronous learning, including related arts classes and support services. As conditions of the pandemic continued to evolve, all students and families had the option to enroll into a remote learning only classroom at each grade level or withdraw into an in-person learning classroom. At the beginning of the school year and our renewed understanding and commitment to remote learning, our 1st and 2nd grade staff began conducting in-person meet and greets with each student and their families to introduce themselves, assess, and gather data to effectively inform each student's academic, social, and emotional needs. During the same time, students in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade were enthralled with learning how to navigate a new digital classroom experience through Google Meet. As teachers and students began learning more about each other through surveys, conversations, and ice-breaking activities, students were administered the NWEA MAP Achievement and Progress Assessments to begin to align, plan, and implement personalized academic learning paths for each student and groups of students. In addition to understanding each student's academic needs, students in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade participated in a new social and emotional survey through Panorama. Throughout the remote learning experience, the Fairview Care crew assisted with delivery of classroom materials, food, and internet connectivity, while our school counselors, psychologists, intervention specialists, educational aides, speech pathologists, food service staff, and occupational and How Guidestone therapists continued to provide a high level of related services and support for students and families. As remote learning drew to a conclusion, we shifted our focus to hybrid learning, where we were able to begin welcoming half of our students back to school for in-person learning 2 days a week, while the other half of the student population remained at home with asynchronous learning. While remaining committed to the safety of all students and staff, Gillis Sweet designed and implemented a series of safety protocols that would increase distancing of students, reduce exposure to others with one-way travel on hallways and stairs, placement of sneeze guards at all student seating, staggered lunch and recess scheduling, sanitation stations throughout the building, and face coverings at all times. During hybrid learning, whether in person at school or at home, staff continued a commitment to keep students present, engaged, and supported through synchronous and asynchronous learning with daily Google Meet check-ins. Each day, staff provided opportunities for students at school to join and engage in connections with students learning at home. This continued commitment to innovate throughout the pandemic allowed students the opportunity to stay connected. As the hybrid learning came to an end in February, we met the final challenge of welcoming all of our students back to school for all-in learning. With a lot of anticipation and excitement, all students began to enter the hallways and classrooms of Gillis Sweet and have safely continued for the remainder of the school year. Throughout all modes of learning, we have continued to promote rigorous and relevant learning experiences that include opportunities for students to form relationships through collaboration, problem solving, application of creative and critical thinking skills, perseverance, and empowerment of their learning. As we begin to prepare for the conclusion of the school year, we look forward to providing students and families with extended summer learning experiences and are excited to end the school year through a celebration to encourage the health and wellness of students, families, and community members with our annual Fairview Park Community Derby Dash 5K Fun Walk Run. The continued success we have experienced this past school year would not have been possible without the continued support and encouragement of our families, staff, and Board of Education. Throughout such an uncertain and challenging year, we have formed a deeper partnership that truly emphasizes a community united. Through this partnership, our students have and will continue to be empowered to learn differently, care deeply, and aspire to excellence. We look forward to continuing to provide exceptional academic, social, and emotional programming, services, and support where all students experience success within a culture of positive relationships that prepare them for their futures. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Mr. Chris Vicka is the principal of Mayer Middle School and Fairview High School. He's assisted by Associate Principal of Fairview High School, Mr. Chris Honick. In spite of the pandemic, both the middle school and high school have accomplished great things and received some very prestigious recognitions. So here's Mr. Vicka to tell you more.
Thank you, Dr. Wagner. Over the past year, we've been very busy transitioning between fully remote learning to a hybrid model to eventually all in. While these changes were going on, the staff and administration were working diligently to continue to push our curriculum forward, improve our craft, and promote the amazing things going on at Fairview High School and Mayer Middle School. We've learned so much from the experience of educating throughout COVID times, and we plan to take that newfound knowledge and experience into the future. So many new tools and approaches were unearthed and utilized throughout these challenging times to best connect our students with their learning. The past year has not only prepared us to be stronger educators, but also inspired us to think differently about the way we have always done things and how to adapt our previous models to fit the requirements of the current day. The end of the 1920 school year and the beginning of the 2021 school year held unique challenges to not only showcase the class of 2020, but also orient the incoming sixth graders. Together, we executed a 3-day in-person commencement ceremony that drew positive attention and promotion from media outlets around the state of Ohio. In addition, on the final night of commencement, members of the class of 2020 were invited back to the campus grounds to walk through the senior luminary display provided by our PTA. We found so many great ways to make sure that our graduates did not miss out on what they deserved. Parents and students alike commended us for the job we did and made comments such as, "We wish all commencement were run like this in the past and in the future." While planning a spectacular graduation ceremony, we were also busy discussing how we would orient our incoming sixth graders while buildings were closed and large gatherings were banned. We landed on the idea of making videos. We knew providing details on paper without a visual wouldn't do. Together, with the help of my own daughter at times, we were able to make videos that highlighted staff members, our building, procedures for entering and exiting the building, and how supplies that would support students while in remote mode would be distributed. While filming each video was a blast, I received more joy from listening to the feedback I received from community members acknowledging how helpful the practice was, that would put their child's or their own mind at ease, or who was going to nominate me for my first Academy Award. If you happen to have entered the building or one of the gymnasiums over the past year, you may have noticed a few new banners displayed around the school. I'm proud to announce that Fairview High School received the designation of Model School from the International Center for Leadership and Education, not only for the 2021 school year, but also the 21-22 school year. This is an accolade that we take very seriously on campus, as we've been working with ICLE for the past 10 years and set a goal years back to hopefully achieve one designation within the district at some point in time. In addition to the ICLE Model School designation, Fairview High School has also been recognized by the Ohio STEM Learning Network as a STEAM designated facility for implementing best practices in the areas of science, technology, engineering, the arts, and mathematics. We have recently submitted our application for the same designation for Mayer Middle School. It's currently under review. We are highly encouraged by our offerings in grades 6, 7, and 8, and hope the middle school will be recognized by the Ohio STEM Learning Network as well for the 21-22 school year. Most recently, our district was notified that Fairview High School yet again received the designation of silver medalist by the U.S. News ranking of the country's best high schools. Over the past 5 years, our Ohio and national rankings have significantly improved, drawing us closer and closer to the goal of becoming a gold medalist. As we look to transition students back into school, our staff wanted to ensure we were providing each child a learning environment that was safe, inviting, and understanding of all that today's students have gone and are still going through. In October of 2020, we were able to partner with the John C. Haney Memorial Foundation to create the first ever John Safe Place. The space is a culmination of collaboration between the foundation, the school district, and the Cleveland Clinic. The purpose of John's Safe Place is to have a dedicated space for students to go for comfort and safety during difficult times and provide them the ability to reach out for counseling and support if needed. This type of space was first created on our campus and is now the model space that is used by the foundation as they open additional spaces in local schools and on college campuses. Beyond just the physical space of our building and its relation to students' social and emotional health, we felt we needed to take a greater notice of and get involved with the current topics of inequality and injustice. Since November of 2020, a group of dedicated FHS students and educators have been working with parents, community members, and district administrators as part of the Fairview Park City School District's Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Justice Task Force, which has been facilitated by the Diversity Center of Northeast Ohio. Task Force members started by exploring the many positive assets in our community and our district, then identified areas in need of improvement. Subcommittees of the task force have each worked together to develop vision and mission statements and an assessment plan. The student and educator subcommittees are currently meeting weekly to develop and implement a survey that will inform the district's action plan. Students and educators have worked together to analyze recent social emotional learning data collected by the middle school and high school counselors, develop overarching research questions, and collect data to inform the direction of the proposed middle school and high school action plan. Another area that needs to be highlighted for going above and beyond this past year is athletics and the work of our athletic director, Joe Dianetti. As a father of children involved in athletics and activities, I know firsthand how important being in any type of activity that keeps you connected with peers has been for our youth throughout COVID. Mr. Dianetti and all the coaches and players did an outstanding job adhering to the CDC guidelines to keep our student athletes competing through all 3 seasons of play. It would also be remiss of me if I did not also draw special attention to the drive and passion of our 4 music teachers, Mr. Sobolskis, Mrs. Howe, Mrs. Karliak, and Mrs. Needham. Their never-ending commitment to showcasing their students' talents resulted in a complete marching band season, beautiful recordings of pieces learned in the fall, and safe in-person concerts in March. As stated earlier, our staff has done a tremendous job not only thinking outside of the box to inspire students day to day, but also create opportunities for students to experience all things those have in the past have completed within specific grade levels. Our staff is not going to allow COVID to steal yet another opportunity or experience from them. Yes, there was still a Shark Tank project in 6th grade this year. Opportunities like the junior experience and senior exit interviews will take place this year. They may look a little bit different, but I guarantee each student will take something away from having participated. Most excitingly, our traditional senior activities will move forward this year in a manner that looks and feels more normal. Prom will be held at Progressive Field. We will host a senior scholars night in the FHS auditorium, a new tradition born out of COVID regulations that will take place again this year and for years to come is the senior parade in June. And finally, we will hold a commencement ceremony in the FHS stadium where all 120 graduating seniors and members of their families can celebrate the class of 2021's academic achievements together. This past year has done everything in its power to present challenges and obstacles to our system of education, our community, as well as our physical and mental well-being. The students and staff of Merritt Middle School and Fairview High School have overcome each barrier and become stronger and better prepared by rising to the challenges and facing them head on.
Thank you, Chris. We're now a few weeks into the fourth quarter and we're in the midst of our spring athletic season, as Chris had mentioned. Our spring sports were all canceled in 2020 at the heart of the pandemic. So our athletes are thrilled to be back on the diamonds and track. As you can tell from Chris's comments and our other principals' comments, we're currently planning to have our end of the school year activities in as normal a fashion as possible within current guidelines, of course. There you have it, a whirlwind, high-level overview of school during a pandemic. So now let me share with you a little information about some fun and exciting things we have in store for our students this summer. Over the course of the past few months, we've been planning a ton of summer extended learning opportunities for our students to reconnect, keep learning, sharpen their skills, and have fun. We surveyed parents and they made it loud and clear that they would like engaging, hands-on learning opportunities this summer. And that's what we have coming up. We'll be sending out a listing of activities that will take place in June, July, and August that parents can register their children to attend. And here's the best part. As part of the stimulus bills passed by Congress, we're able to offer all of these programs and activities at no cost to families. The registration information will go out via email and social media soon. As we look to the future, I have to admit that this presentation is a little bittersweet for me, as it will be my last, and I will be retiring in July. It was a very difficult decision, as I greatly enjoy what I do, and it's wonderful to be a part of the Warrior family. My wife, Susan, and I love our home here, this community, and the many friends we've made over the past 7 years, and we look forward to many more years here in Fairview Park. However, the peak of the pandemic is behind us. The strategic plan is in mid-stride. The financial condition of the district is strong and healthy. Again, thank you for supporting issue 72 last November. And with all of that, it's the perfect time to pass the torch on to someone with new ideas, energy, and excitement to take our school district to the next level. I would like to thank all of you who encouraged and supported me over the years. I'm thankful and honored to have served as your superintendent.
Thank you, Dr. Wagner. I'm excited to share that we have some new members of the Warrior family. Back in January, shortly after we started the process of finding a new treasurer, we also began the process of finding our next superintendent, as Dr. Wagner announced his retirement. We again used Finding Leaders to help us with the search, and we had over 40 applicants for this position. 40 is a high number of applicants for this position, and it's been said many times that we're a very attractive district, and that is really thanks to the staff, the students, and the community. The Board of Education wanted to be very transparent during the selection process and involve as many people as possible. Back in January, we had 11 focus groups meet with Finding Leaders to help create a superintendent profile. This profile was used to help screen applicants. And after the Board of Education conducted first round interviews, we invited over 25 people to take part in a stakeholder group interview for our final candidates. I would like to thank each and every person who participated in the selection process. On April 20th, the Board of Education approved a contract for Mr. Keith Ahern to start as superintendent of Fairview Park City Schools on August 1st. Mr. Ahern, would you like to say a few words?
Absolutely. Thank you, President Dalton. Thank you also to everybody on the committee and anybody that participated in the entire Board of Education for the confidence they have placed in me to be named as the next superintendent. I was so glad to be able to be a small part of today's presentation and to hear more about the great things that are happening here in Fairview Park City Schools. Thank you to the support staff, teachers, administrators, and everybody who has worked and shown flexibility to support students and families during this truly remarkable year. I cannot wait to join the Warrior family and to lead this outstanding group of committed individuals. I look forward to building strong relationships and continuing the progress of this innovative school district. Thank you to the community for their support, their continued support of the district, and thank you, Dr. Wagner, for your service and leadership and leaving me a strong foundation to build upon. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This past year, Mr. Krivak was appointed as principal of Gillislee Elementary, and due to the pandemic, the vacancy created by his moving up from the associate principal position remained unfilled throughout this school year. I would like to say thank you to Mr. Krivak for all your extra efforts and to Ms. Moran at the EEC for all of your support as well. We know it was a very challenging year. We are thrilled to welcome Shanna Covey to serve as associate principal at Gillislee Elementary School next school year. A vacancy occurred at Mayer Middle School 2 years ago, and that position has been vacant since. I would like to thank Mr. Vicka and Mr. Honig for their efforts to hold down the fort during that time. We welcome Heather Kaminsky as she becomes the next associate principal at Mayer Middle School. We would like to welcome all the new members of the Warrior family. A meet and greet for Mr. Showalter and Mr. Ahern will be held on Tuesday, May 4th at Fairview High School at 6:30, so please stop by and say hello. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Wagner for his leadership over the past 7 years. He has been dedicated to the success of our schools and community since his first day on the job. He's worked tirelessly on improving our academic programs and bringing direction to our district through the creation and implementation of strategic plans. Dr. Wagner's leadership, especially during this past year, has helped us continue to achieve success in a year when that seemed impossible. Dr. Wagner's communication and collaboration with others has built partnerships that will last well beyond his years. Thank you for coming into our district and leaving us in a much better place. We will always consider you a part of the Warrior family, and best of luck to you in your next chapter. We're not going to let Dr. Wagner leave without some celebrations. I'm not going to say too much more. We will continue to celebrate Dr. Wagner's retirement on Thursday, June 3rd from 3:30 to 5:30 in the high school cafeteria. Dr. Wagner, will you now make some closing remarks?
Thank you, Jocelyn. I'm looking forward to that retirement reception. It's been one wild ride for all of us this past year, providing challenges unlike anything we've ever experienced before. As we reach the end of this presentation and hopefully this pandemic, the most important thing we must share is our deep sense of gratitude and appreciation for everyone who's been a part of this success story. Most certainly our teachers, who shifted instantly to remote learning, then to hybrid, then all in, embracing new tools and techniques at every turn to keep the learning going for our students. Here you see our PTAs expressing their thanks for all of our teachers and everything they were doing. And our PTA Council this year recognized our entire food service team with their Shining Star Award for all they've done to assure every single student had access to good, nutritious meals all throughout this pandemic. I'd like to thank our administrators, our secretarial and office staff, our educational assistants and support staff, our custodians, maintenance workers, cleaners, and bus drivers. Everyone chipped in to do whatever was needed to keep the learning going. In our district's first ever annual report to the community back in 2016, I stated that there is an undeniable mystique about Fairview Park and that Fairview is a hidden gem of the West Side. This past year has proven that to be true. So most importantly, we thank all of you, the Warrior family, our community united, for continuing to trust, support, and join us as we empower each other to learn differently, care deeply, and aspire to excellence throughout not just this past year, but long into the future. Thank you.